Hello, everybody. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about. Sorry, that's distracting me. Today, I would like to talk to you about what is the best way to go no contact with your borderline romantic interest, and what are some other red flags. So, if you're not familiar with this channel is devoted to non-borderlines who have been in romantic relationships or are currently in romantic relationships with somebody who has undiagnosed and or untreated and or regressed borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is a serious mental illness. It's not just something that needs to be worked on or thought through. It's a very serious mental illness that as I understand it, can only be reversed in terms of its effects through intense, regular, committed therapy. So, I am not a therapist. Don't take anything I say in place of actual therapy. I'm just somebody who survived a very toxic relationship with somebody with undiagnosed, untreated borderline personality disorder. All right, so what should we talk about first? So, as you know, it is my belief that, and my experience, that the kindest thing you can do for your borderline partner is to leave the relationship and go no contact. And that is because that is what is best for them. I mean, it's best for you also, but it is what's best for them. So if the reason why you're staying is because you love them and you feel responsible and you want to make sure they're going to be okay, then the kindest thing you can do is leave. The question is, how do you do that? Before we get into that, let's take a look at some of the red flags. Now, as you know, I've talked about my experience ad nauseum with my ex-borderline girlfriend. I've talked to you about how horrifically painful and toxic and confusing and how damaged I was afterwards. And I have since laid out that you can fully, completely recover from the damage of a borderline relationship. Now, the underlying causes that got you into the relationship, that may take a little longer, but you can completely recover, and I have a three-pronged approach which worked for me. If you want what I have, I can only recommend that you do what I did. So, of course, you go no contact, then you go get therapy. You know, you don't have to wait to go to get therapy before you go no contact. If you want to get therapy first and get help to go no contact, you can. Get therapy from somebody who knows how to treat codependence and cluster B personality disorder relationships. Second thing is go to coda.org, CODA.org, and just show up and go to one of those Codependence Anonymous meetings and raise your hand, and you can go to a Zoom meeting because you can go right now and probably find a meeting right now and just say, I was suggested to come here, I'm brand new, I need somebody to walk me through the steps. So that's the second thing. Work the 12 steps of CODA. And third, have some kind of daily spiritual practice, whether that be meditation, going to church, prayer, Tai Chi, Buddhist, even atheist musings about whatever. Anything that gets you connected to something that's not you, whether that's life force energy or God or electromagnetism or the Goodyear blimp. I don't care. So those are the three-pronged approach: therapy, 12 steps, daily spiritual practice. You do that, in my experience, you can fully recover and get your life back. But we still need to understand, because there's this confusion or what people call cognitive dissonance, where we just don't understand what the hell happened and what's going on, and we know we should do this and we do something else. It's just, it's this craziness that happens when you can get infected. You can't become a borderline, but you can definitely become infected with the thinking. In fact, that's kind of what the borderline unconsciously wants to do. The borderline unconsciously wants to project onto you their cognitive dissonance and give it to you. They're trying to offload it onto you so that then you will feel crazy and they'll be sane. Of course, they're not consciously trying to do this, so they're not evil people. We all do it in our own way, but that's the dynamic, among other things. So it's important to know what some of the red flags are. I've talked about the red flags before. First one is there will be a feeling of discomfort on varying levels. I know this because I'm now going to be sharing with you what happened to me not too long ago. It was, I think, a couple months ago. I briefly got involved in a no strings attached romantic way with somebody whom I now believe is a quiet borderline. And I don't say that, I don't throw that off cavalierly. I mean, I stayed in it long enough to make sure, and I was sure. And I ended up going no contact. But let me share with you, again, some of the red flags. So the first one is there's going to be some kind of discomfort that you're going to experience. There's going to be some kind of non-specific anxiety. Something isn't right. You'll start to feel like, you'll be very confused because in the beginning, as you know, there is the idealization. And they all do it differently. This one was very subtle. I'm good at getting the really, really intelligent, quiet ones. That seems to be my borderline du jour. But there was this immediate discomfort from the very beginning where, and I even said something at some point of, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling like you're uncomfortable. And I'm worried, and then of course the response was, no, of course not. I'm here for you, and whatever you want. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but no, let me just make you feel better. I'm here for you. I'm your friend. Let's enjoy each other. But I just couldn't shake this feeling that I was doing something wrong, that it was wrong of me. I came to find out that what was happening was that there's, as you hear me, there's psychological projection, which is when somebody takes their internal feelings and unconsciously projects it onto the other person. So that's like, when somebody's full of rage, you walk in the room and you're having a good day and they look at you and they go, you're so angry. Well, that's because something about you triggered anger within them and they can't acknowledge it or won't acknowledge it within themselves. So they put it onto you. It's got to be coming from somewhere. They can feel it. It's coming from somewhere. It's not me. It must be you. Then there is transference. So transference is when you take feelings that you have towards somebody else. This is what happens in therapy and in relationships with borderlines, because borderlines do this with everybody. Transference is in therapy, what will happen is you take your feelings for your mother or your father, and because the therapist is stimulating your unconscious, you will project that onto them. So that's why lots of times in the beginning, clients will fall in love with their therapist. It's called transference. And then they transfer all their negative feelings. Eventually they get past the I love you, you're God, to I hate you, you're trying to control me. I know I deal with this as a spiritual teacher all the time. It's just par for the course. That's transference. Then there is, what is the word? Induction. So induction is when you are induced and you feel something coming from the other person. So I had this feeling with this woman. She was younger than me. I had this feeling that I was like a predator. I kept feeling like I was a predator. And I kept feeling like that being with her was abusive. And I'd stop and I'd go, am I doing anything predatory? Am I doing anything abusive? And for the life of me, I couldn't. And it wasn't, coming from her. She consciously, she, wasn't saying that. And then things started leaking out about, I won't get into the specifics, but it got very clear that that's what she wanted. And so that was really disturbing for me because I was really like, because I don't see myself that way. I certainly don't want to be that way. But I kept on having this feeling that I was, and then I started having this feeling of wanting to be, and that was really disturbing. So one of the things you'll find with a borderline is that you may be induced into feeling certain feelings that is not part of your normal nature. And what's happening is that, borderlines feel abused. They went through trauma. And what everybody does, including borderlines, is we want to replicate our origin experience dynamic. So if you grew up with an abusive father or whatever, then we tend to induce those feelings in others because we want them to play out the role. This is all happening unconsciously, meaning you're not consciously aware of it. That's what unconscious means, that you have no awareness. So this is happening completely unconsciously, energetically. And so this is part of the cognitive dissonance, where it's like you look on the surface, and on the surface level, there doesn't seem to, it's a feeling. And it's like you get this weird feeling and intuition, and it's, where's this coming from, and why? And it sets it up so that they can then turn around and say, you see, you're abusive. They might have fetishes. So as you know, borderlines can be hypersexual. And a lot of times they like to be, tied up and other kinds of things like that. Because they want to recreate the feeling of being abandoned, abused, and getting negative attention. Getting negative attention is better than nothing. And that kind of experience distracts them from the pain that they feel. So it's a method of distraction. So that was really strange and weird, and there was just always this feeling that there was something I was doing wrong all the time. Now, some of that was coming out in her behavior. In fact, the first time she came to visit me, she pulled into the driveway, and I've got a steep driveway. It's not like straight up and down, but it's it's kind of steep. It's not a big deal. Tons of them all up and down the block. And the first thing she said was, the driveway is really steep. And, everything, there was always something wasn't right. We weren't in the right part of the house. There was too much light coming in. And, other things like, other things I don't want to get into. But bottom line is that there was always comments about I was either doing too much of something or not enough of something, or there was just something wrong with what I was doing. I was making her feel a certain way, and they were really strange and unusual, and my behaviors weren't out of sorts at all. Very normal behavior, but she would respond as, why are you holding my hand? Something like that. What are you looking at me like that for? Those kinds of things. So those are some of the red flags. First one is even in the love bombing phase. And the other, here was one of the most important ones. In the very beginning, one of the things that was said to me was, I feel like you're the only person who sees me. Now that is a really wonderful thing to hear if you're dating somebody and you like them and you've just met them and you're feeling a strong connection and attraction. And if they respond by saying, I feel like you're the only person that truly sees me. That is a really wonderful thing to hear, but I'm telling you that is a red flag. That is, that was the case with my borderline ex. Looking back on it in relationships that didn't work with borderlines who now I know were not quiet. Of course, it didn't last more than a week or two, because I won't put up with the screaming and the yelling and all that. So, but same kind of thing in the beginning of, I feel like you're the only person in the world who truly sees me, who truly understands me. I feel safe with you. And so there's that feeling from the very beginning that this is star-crossed lovers, that this is your long-lost soulmate, that I've been waiting my whole life for you. I have nothing against those experiences. I've had that, and it was one of those beautiful soulmate kind of relationships. But when it's the first or second thing that happens in the relationship, if you also combine that with the feelings of, even though this person says they're really into me and I can see they're really attracted and really interested, there's this discomfort of, there's something I'm doing that's not right, or there's something not right. Little comments like, the driveway's too steep, the sun is too this, why are you holding my hand like that? What don't, you're making me uncomfortable the way you look at me right now, and if you're not doing or saying anything, those kinds of things, you put all those things together, this is what, cognitive dissonance creates. And then on top of that, you're the only one. So that creates also a responsibility, because if you're the only one that truly sees them, and of course this will be preceded by really intense conversations, really intense oversharing of personal details, personal life details, and then of course you will immediately, without realizing it, go into the caretaker mode to, I do understand you and this and that, and then you'll give that experience of you being the one that truly loves them and truly understands them. And so it's important to acknowledge when you feel that. Again, each one by itself might not be that big of a deal, but when you put the whole thing together, there's this confusion of, on the one hand, you are the one person that sees them and truly knows them, and they feel truly safe with you. At the same time, you can't put your finger on it, but there's this feeling that you're doing something wrong. You feel uncomfortable. You feel like you should be doing something different, and maybe there's some induction of strange feelings, like we may have some strange feelings of, in my case, feeling like a predator or feeling like an abuser, and then maybe even some strange feelings welling up within you, sort of wanting to do that and going, where the hell is that coming from? So the induction of feelings, right? The transference, the projection. Those are all really good signs that you're with a borderline. Now, what I did with this most recent one, again, it didn't last very long, but without getting into too much detail, it became very clear that, something was up. And right after the real intimacy connection, there was that typical quiet borderline, shut down, strange comments and feeling disconnected, and, slight outbursts of passive aggressive, whatever, and then, they go radio silent. So now I didn't rush to conclusions, because some people just have issues, and sometimes, whatever. I knew from the beginning that, this was not something I was going to dive into and throw all of my feelings into. And so I was watching as much as I was listening and responding. And then, we had an intimate encounter, which, she went weird afterwards and got very, very cold and distant, passive aggressive, and then just disappeared. Now, being the good codependent that I am, and also I was interested to see what was going on, I texted. And I had promised to give her a link to something. And so I texted her the link, and I said, here you go, and let me know what you think about that. And because on my phone, you can see when somebody reads a text, I saw that that the text had been delivered and that she had read it. Zero response. A week went by. I think week and a half went by. No response. Now, my codependent impulse, was to reach out and say, hey, did you get my text? And hey, is everything all right? And hey, what's going on? And trying to, chase after. But because I knew what I knew and because of what I experienced, that became the excuse, if you will, to go no contact, because I knew what was coming. And there had been enough passive aggressive abuse that I saw that this wasn't going to get any better. So because I had been there once before, I was able to hear all of the codependent, I really should reach out, and I can't just walk away from somebody that quickly. She has this issue and that issue, and I shouldn't just abandon her. And so here I am taking on all this guilt for somebody that is choosing not to respond to a text and a communication that we had both agreed we would, that would be part of our dynamic. And so I decided, that's it. I'm going no contact. I didn't announce to her that I was going no contact. And the reason why I didn't is because she had already gone no contact. She had already chosen not to respond to my communication, and it was very deliberate. I could see that it was very deliberate, and I gave her plenty of time. A day, 2 days should be plenty of time, but I gave her like a week and a half, no response. And so I said, that's it. She's made her point. She's doing whatever she's doing, and I don't feel comfortable. I feel like this is just going to turn into one of those same relationships. So that was it. I was done. I went no contact. So blocked on my phone, blocked all of the social media and everything else, and that was that. Now, interestingly enough, I did see that she came back on to one of the social media things with a new profile and saying something to the effect of, I'm looking for blah, 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 and I'm trying again. And whether or not that was directed at me, I don't know. But, it's again one of those things where I felt like, well, gosh, maybe I should reach out. But the thing is, with borderlines, as you know, it never changes. It is a mental illness. The end result of that mental illness will be a final discard. And part of the roller coaster ride is this up and down. Them disappearing, them pushing you away, whatever it is, and then reappearing in ways like this. Or, I don't know. I don't even know if she responded to the text or not, because I went no contact for that reason. So, what is the best way to go no contact? If they have not ghosted you, and you are, let's say, the worst case scenario, you're in the relationship, you are in between them splitting on you, they haven't gotten rid of you yet, or they haven't betrayed you or cheated on you or screamed at you or whatever it is that they do, and you now realize that this isn't going to get any better, but now things are, quote, good, and you don't want to screw it up. With my borderline ex, I remember when things were in one of those places. I mean, she was being weird and things were happening, but she was, I won't get into it, but we weren't, apart. And we were having a discussion about something, and I, the drama that was coming back, and I wasn't doing something right, and she wasn't capable of, she wanted to meet me, but she didn't feel good about it, and she was scared, and I had just gone through it. I said, you know what, let's just cut our losses and walk away. Maybe you don't really want to be with me, and let's just accept that and move on. No, please, no, I just need a little bit. I'm going to call you back in an hour. And an hour went by and she called back and there was no change. I'm just so scared, but I can't see you. But no, don't break up with me, please. Just wait. And I did. And I paid the price for that. So, worst case scenario, things are good and you feel responsible and you feel guilty and you're afraid of hurting them, or you're afraid they're going to hurt themselves, which is not your problem. You say this. You say, listen, I've been doing some thinking and I've made a decision. This relationship is not healthy for me, It's nothing personal. I love you very much, but our dynamic is toxic to me, and I can't stay in this relationship. I'm going to go no contact. If you want me in your life, then here's what I would need for you to do. I would like for you to go and get help from a qualified therapist who knows how to treat borderline personality disorder. I'd like for you to go regularly, like a couple times a week. And a year from now, if you still want me in your life, then I'm okay for you to contact me, and I will meet you at your therapist's office, and we will see where we can go from there. And then you proceed to go no contact. You then say, I'm sorry, I'm going to be leaving, it's over. And you leave. And you block all forms of communication. If necessary, move. I ended up doing that. I was going to do it anyway. I don't think my borderline would have stalked me, but maybe yours will. If you need to, move. If you need to plan it out ahead of time and not tell them that you're going to leave until you've got everything in order, I've done that in relationships before too, where, I knew that things weren't going to work out, and I waited a day while I went and got myself an apartment, and, she was at work. I moved all my stuff out, and she came home, and I told her. You may think that's horrible, but in the case of the borderline, this is what you have to do. And so if you need to, moves and change your number. Do whatever you have to do to go no contact. And then that's it. And then you have to go absolutely no contact. You have to not unblock your phone. I did that. You have to not unblock your Facebook. I did that. And I would do it for a week or so at a time, unconsciously hoping that she would, reach out. Don't do that. And be in therapy and be in a support group. CODA is the perfect one. And every time you feel the impulse to call, to unblock your phone, to reach out, to respond to the hoovering if they're able to contact you, instead of responding, you call your CODA sponsor, you call your therapist, you come and watch one of my videos, but you don't respond to that impulse. And then you do those three things that I already described, which is therapy, 12 steps, daily spiritual practice. Freedom.spirittao.com. I'm still putting that together, but if you'd like, you can leave me your email in the comments section, and I will email you when that thing is up and ready. But just, I'll announce it on the channel, but I am putting that together. I'm almost done with phase 1. I think I'm going to have multiple phases to it. And you can go and go to that site and see what that's all about. Last thing is, you can fix one borderline. There's one borderline that you can fix. It's this little crying baby right here. She is in pain. She's beside herself. She's having a borderline meltdown, and it's because you have not subscribed yet. But unlike other borderlines, this will actually fix her. So if you want this little borderline happy, then very softly you can just take your cursor and scroll over her little face, and then you subscribe. Now, when you subscribe and when you hit the bell button, she will then magically be healed and never have a problem ever again. So it's your responsibility. You got to fix her, which means you got to subscribe. All right, that's it, guys. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you all very soon.